Good Tuesday evening. Happy Talk Tech Tuesday. Tech Talk Tuesday. Thank you all. This is number 142. I believe that's correct. If you guys can hear me, if you have anybody on here watching that can verify that, I believe it was 141. Hey, Chuck, first place. How about that? Tech Talk Tuesday last week, I think, was 141, I believe. I don't remember. Hey, David, somebody hit me back. Charlie, thank you. Y'all, was it Tech Talk 141 or was it Tech Talk 142 last week? Hey, Kevin, one of you guys know for sure. Hey, Terry, I hear you. Me too, Brian. Good job. All right, Tech Talk. What number is it? Hey, James. Made it. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, David. I'm glad. Yep. Yeah, it's good sometimes. It depends on what it is, isn't it? BG, how about it? 141 last week, 142 this week. Thank you very much. Very good. I wanted to share with you guys that how cool that is. As always, I want to tell you about 141, 142 Tech Talks in a row, Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. Thank you all for tuning in. I know it's a different hour every part of the globe, and I wanted you to know before I forget to share this with you that Jackie saves this live post and we put it on our YouTube channel, which is Star Racing GA. I know we're now in Tennessee, but our YouTube channel is still called Star Racing GA. We were in Georgia for 42 years. And hey, Gino, Champ, Greg, thank you all for checking in. We put a different little backdrop up today. These are some of our NHRA Championship event trophies. And all of these are unique to us as a company and as a family. Hey, Gary. Hey, Steve. Is because each one of these is a win trophy for each one of the riders that won and raced with us. Like I've got John Myers' first win, late great John Myers. I got his last win. I've got Angel's first win she ever had an NHRA trophy here. And I've got her last win that she ever won on the Star Racing team over a long span of time. Also, we got Michael Ray, Reggie Showers. We've got some Fred Collis. We got Peggy Llewellyn. We've got some cool people that won races with us in our career. And I just wanted, instead of it being all about Star Racing and George Bryce and trophies, these each one of these have represent a person and a team. And it's fun to have these. Most of them are in the shop. A few of these are in the house. This is in the house. But these are unique to us. I'm gonna see if I can see John Myers' first win, Angel's first win. Then we had several of the people that won with us over the years. Several. Anyway, it's a very great time to do that. And I also wanted to share with you, I have on my Ant-Man socks, Ant-Man. And Jackie and Julie got me this nice Captain America shirt. I'm a big fan of America, and she struggles at times, but when hasn't she? Since 1776. America has always struggled. That's our history, but I've still been all over, and I really love America. Every country I've been to, some of them are really great, some of them are not so great, but America is still one of the ones that people would like to live there or be like, and we're thankful for that very much. So when 4th of July comes around, we'll talk about our America's birthday. But today, I wanted to welcome you to the Book of Face. Hey, Paul, Ben, Charles, yep, Facebook. I know it's famous now. Boy, oh boy, has that come a long way and changed our world in the last 12, 15 years. I call it the Book of Face. I am the George of Bryce. I've been doing Tech Talk for a while, and I raced for my whole career, raced for decades, and worked on racing engines, and I learned a lot, and I want to share some of that with you today. But I wanted to explain the trophies. I know it seems like it's a self. I wanted to also share with you guys that I spent a lot of my life where this is all that mattered. Even though the family, the business, my daughter, I feel like I sort of cheated them out of a lot of attention, because this was winning 80-something of these and 6 national championships were overpowered my life. And I became, over a period of time, I was not real proud of them because I felt like I neglected many people in my life. But these people, all of these represent a real person that we know and or know of, and their sacrifice and their hard work that they put in to these trophies is why Jackie picked out just these to be on these shelves right here, based on the people that have raced on our motorcycle on our team over the years. And I wanted to share that with you. But I'm not ashamed of them anymore because I understand now that the good Lord ran us up and down that road for 30 years to do everything right, everything wrong, make all the mistakes, do everything, all the good things, all the wrong things to melt down to where we are today and create a platform that gives folks sometimes a reason to listen or to look and see what I've got to say. And I like sharing it now instead of explaining about how much that was or not. But I'm going to turn to the board and we're going to talk a little bit about that now. So hold on to your hat. We're going to do a flip, a quick flip here. I know that's loud. I know that's noisy. But I wanted to tell y'all it's Tech Talk Tuesday, number 142. And I ordered a big degree wheel, and I noticed after I posted it that a lot of people have this size and this size of a degree wheel, and it's a good reference that I'll use over the next few years and Tuesdays to try and explain things that I've learned and what I think I understand about it. And the the preview of this whole program is going to be, this is based on information that I think I know. This is based on information that created my opinions that are not popular with competitors. They're not popular with people that believe otherwise, and that's okay. This is not a you got to believe me only post. This is a great opportunity for me to share what I think I know. And I'm telling you right now, I'm not making this a gospel thing where this is the only way, because there's so many smart guys out there and girls that are win and set records and do a lot of cool stuff that no other ways. But this is the way I think that it goes, and I'm going to explain to you what I think I know. And anyway, I wanted to share that when you put this degree wheel on the front of a big block Chevrolet, or you put it on a Chrysler or Ford or any engine that turns on this end of the crankshaft, it turns clockwise. I want to share with you that everyone that prints these and all the companies that build them, they put this little area over here called the intake open before top dead center. They put the intake closes after bottom. They put over here, they put exhaust open before bottom, and then they put exhaust close after top dead center. Now, if you work on a Suzuki, Honda, Kawasaki, or Yamaha, or whatever your racing, even the Buells, I think, wherever you put the degree wheel, if you put it on the crankshaft side on a V-twin, you put it on the starter side on a 4, you put it on the harmonic balancer pulley end of a V8, or you put it on the flywheel end of a V8. Think about this real quick. If you put it on the front of a V8, looking at the engine from the front where the driver's here and the passenger's over here, this degree wheel will rotate clockwise. If you put this on the other end, like on the Suzuki, where the pro stock Suzuki guys work off of the starter side, the starter end of the crankshaft, this flywheel, this degree wheel turns counterclockwise. And that is very confusing for a guy like me because, boy, oh boy, if you start spinning in this thing the other direction, I get fangled up really bad and I don't know what I'm talking about. And I have learned in 142 weeks that if I don't understand it well, I can't explain it well. And I believe all of us are guilty or know that, because you can see people try to explain stuff that they don't understand how it works and they get kind of jumbled up. And there are people out there that explain it really well and understand it really well. And they understand it really well, but they don't know how to explain it, or they can't explain it in terms you and me can understand. And that's a gift that I believe the good Lord gave me, is the ability to try and take this information that's easily tossed right over our heads, easily talked over our heads. But us, 99% of us don't know that stuff, and I'm trying to translate it into words that make sense to me and you. So I'm going to attempt that now for the next few minutes, and I would like for you to bear with me as this is turning backwards. It's turning the correct way. The engine turns in this rotation, and if you're on the front of the crankshaft on a V8, it turns clockwise, and if you put it on the back of the crankshaft on a V8, it turns counterclockwise. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's what I think I know. So looking at this block is pretty vague. It says 20 degrees to 60 degrees, and that is before top dead center. So if this turns this way, that means that this degree wheel, let's put it here, and the intake valve opens 40 degrees before top dead center. So this is going to rotate like this. The intake valve opens, and then you get to TDC. So now it's open this many degrees before top dead center. I hope that makes sense to you. So as this continues to rotate this way, I'm going to try and make this make sense. After TDC, which is over here, this many degrees after TDC, say 110, this is the intake lobe center line. Now people will tell you all the time, so what's the lobe center of this? Let's say this particular cam that opened at 30 before top. Let's turn it backwards again. I'm going to try and make this work. Here's TDC, and here is the intake valve opening at 30 degrees before top dead center. Can you see this okay, you guys? Can you see 30 degrees before top? Because this is turning this way, and this intake valve is going to open 30 degrees before top. Then it's going to continue to rotate until we get to the intake center line. Let's say it's 110. This is just theoretical. If you'll look, they've got 100 for some cams, 110 for some cams, and 120 for some cams. So what they're trying to say, Moroso, is after all these decades, is most intake cam center lines are between 100 lobe center and 120. Yes, we've seen some in at 95, a lobe center of 95 degrees. We've seen them at 98, 100, 102, 105, 110, 112, 113. Back in my Suzuki days, it was most of the time between 110 and 112, 113 degrees after TDC. That's full lift. Now, what we will find out is if you count from here back to TDC, now you can see it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110. You can also go 110 degrees this way, and you can find the intake valve closing. It says intake valve closing in this area. So let's go to 110. If you'll look right here, it says 110. And that's also in the exhaust center line. All right, let's go to intake valve closing. Intake valve close. Please don't let me get y'all goofed up. But let's go back to 110, and then what we'll find out is this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110. Oh, yeah, plus the 30 on this side of TDC. 110, 120, 130, 140. That's 110. So intake valve closes at 70 after bottom, or 110 after, or 110. So let's just do it again. Here's where the cam opens. Here's where the cam closes on the intake, and halfway between the opening and closing is the intake center line. So we counted, I did not do it right. Let me do it right. 110 here, and then it opened 30 degrees before 0, so that's 110. Let's go over here. 10, 20, 30. Trying to goof myself up. That is halfway. If you can't explain it well, it means you don't understand it well. I'm making chicken salad out of this right now. Intake valve opens at 30 before top. Intake valve's open. Then we come all the way around to 110 after top. This is the center line. And then we go all the way around till it closes, which will be the same amount of degrees from here to here as it is from here to here. And that's why the closing will be the same amount of degrees from here. So if this is 110 plus 30, that's 140 degrees. And then over here going this way, it is 110. What does that say right there? 110. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 20, 130, 110 over there. So that's 70 after bottom. And that will give us the whole duration of the intake lobe, and halfway between the opening before TDC and the closing after bottom gives us the lobe center, which is full lift. If this was a cam lobe, it would have full lift there. Check this up so you can see it. Yeah, that's fuzzy math for us old guys. That is a great statement. Last week, I talked a little bit about how little time we had to compress the air after we get it in, because this number, if the intake opens at 30 before top dead center, when it's rotating this way, it's 30 before top dead center. If we rotate it, if we turn it on the wheel, it's 30 before here. And what happens is this is at 050 lift off the seat, but if we go to 1 thou lift off the seat, 1 thou lift off the seat, we add this much duration to it. And on the closing, when we get it, this is 050 off the seat here. When it closes, if we close it at 1 thou lift off the seat, we add this much time, the valve is actually open, and we don't get much time to compress it. Last week, I talked about the intake lobe a lot, and I didn't really cover the exhaust lobe. So today, I want to talk to you a little bit more about how the exhaust side of that works. The exhaust side, let's try and visualize that we're TDC. I'm going to write it on here so we're not confused. TDC, top dead center. This is bottom dead center. They're 180 degrees apart. When the piston's sitting at the total top and piston's going down and the crankshaft's turning, this is when it stops at the bottom. So if your stroke is 4 inches, for instance, your piston will go up and down. It will go down from here to here. That's 4 inches if it's a 4-inch stroke. I'm trying to make this come back into focus for you guys and for me. If we go 4 inches while we rotate 180 degrees, I wanted you guys to know that when the exhaust, let's walk real through. Intake stroke goes 180 degrees, and during that time it goes down 4 inches. Intake valve's open, and it sucks in the air and the fuel. Fuel comes in through your injectors or your carburetor, and the air comes in through the intake port. And when the piston stops at the bottom, at whatever RPM you're at when this happens, the airflow keeps coming in, and the piston turns around and starts going back up on the compression stroke. And when the piston stops at bottom, the air's still coming. So it's like inertia. It's like it's coming in, and the piston stops, but it keeps filling. And when the piston stops at the bottom and then starts back up, it's still filling. And that's how much you can trap with the intake valve closing. If you can close the intake valve at the right time, you get more than 100% volumetric efficiency in the engine, and you trap more than it would have if it was going static speed rather than full speed. Now, after that, we have the compression stroke from here to here, and then we have the power stroke from here to here, then we have the exhaust stroke from here to here. But I got to tell you, man, that exhaust stroke is somewhat misunderstood, because we have intake stroke, compression stroke, and then power stroke. Let's talk about the power stroke. This is where the exhaust kicks in. When the power stroke starts at TDC, the piston's going down again, and when we get to about 90 after top or 90 before bottom, we start to open the exhaust valve. And the exhaust valve is open, so this pressure that you build on the power stroke this pressure you build in this range starts blowing out the exhaust immediately as soon as you start to open the exhaust valve. Now, you know that on your engine and our engine, the intake valve's big and the exhaust valve is small, so we have to put a big intake in it to get more air and fuel in a short period of time, and we only have a small exhaust valve. But if we put a big exhaust valve, we wouldn't be able to get enough air and fuel in. So the air and fuel comes in at barometer, atmospheric pressure, whatever the barometer is outside, the piston goes down, the barometer fills the motor through the intake port, through the intake valve, and we spray fuel to it to try and get around 13-to-1 air fuel. Then we light it and it expands into the power stroke, and then the exhaust starts to leak out. Here's the deal. Now that you've got a smaller exhaust valve, let's say your intake valve is 2 inches and your exhaust valve is 1.5 inches. You can see your intake valve is bigger and your exhaust valve smaller. So how do we get all of that out of this exhaust valve? Because it's smaller. Now, why don't we make the exhaust valve bigger? Well, if you only have this much room in your engine. So if you make this bigger, you have to make this smaller. If you make this bigger, you have to make the exhaust smaller. You have to make the intake smaller. So that doesn't line up for us because we've all tried it. All the guys that have been in this line of work, they always try different size valves. They want to put a bigger intake in, they want to put a bigger exhaust in, and there's only room for the biggest of each, and we have to cheat the exhaust a little bit by putting a bigger intake in so we can make enough power to make it worth our while. But going back to the exhaust stroke starting so soon, it's so we can finish getting all that out. Because this piston is going down on the power stroke, the exhaust valve starts to open, and it takes all of this time, all the way back to TDC and all the way past TDC, 20, 30 degrees after TDC to get the exhaust out. So this is a really long time. They say the exhaust stroke is from the bottom to the top, but it's actually halfway down on the power stroke. It starts, it goes all the way to the bottom, it goes all the way back to the top, and it closes the exhaust valve in the middle of the intake stroke. So let's walk through it one more time. I'll draw some circles. Here's the intake stroke. The air is coming in the engine. And when we get just after bottom dead center, when the pressure is equal between inside the cylinder and outside the cylinder, we slam the intake valve shut. Then we squeeze that air and fuel mixture, and then we light it before TDC by the spark plug lights it. And then we end up making this power stroke to here, and the exhaust valve starts to open halfway down on the exhaust stroke, and then now we are expansion inside the cylinders, blowing all the exhaust out of the exhaust valve. And then right before the exhaust valve shuts, way over here, the intake valve opens again for the intake stroke. So there's a transition going on here called overlap. Overlap is when both the intake and exhaust valves open. Intake valve starting to open before TDC, and the exhaust valve closing after TDC. So this event is called overlap. And that's when both intake and exhaust valves are open. And if you got a good enough momentum going and you got a good enough exhaust system going, we can complement the overlap by having some inlet come in and help clean the exhaust out that last few 10 or 20 degrees. This week, Jackie and I traveled, and we drove on the road a lot, and I experienced a phenomenon for several miles that I saw a great opportunity to explain it in an analogy. We were driving through Atlanta, and there were 4 lanes of traffic. It was all going, let's say it was all going southbound. 4 lanes, everybody's going this way. And every one of these was full. Cars, trucks, truck, cars. This is on the interstate, going southbound. I gotta get this glare off of this deal so you can see, there we go. All these cars and trucks are going this way. Then they had a sign that said, right lane ends. So all these people came over, and pretty soon we had 3 lanes. All the cars and trucks went here, and the traffic started backing up. Pretty soon it had another sign right here that said, right lane ends, merge left. Another one. So now, just in a mile or two, we had all 4 of these southbound lanes funneled into 2 lanes. And the traffic was backed up like Nobody's business. You could not believe it. Then at the end of that, with construction, the 4 lanes went into 3. Then the 3 lanes went into 2. And then the 2 lanes went into 1 with construction. And what it was, from the blimp, or from the satellite, it looked like a 4-in-1 exhaust system for me. And I saw, my thing that I've learned all these years was when your collector is full and your exhaust system is full, no more air will go in the engine. And I'm talking about the exhaust side. People say, well, how could that be, George? And I said, when you start seeing the backflow coming out of the intake, that's the same as when all these cars and trucks were backed up on the highway and the flow stopped. I'm talking about no more trucks moved, no more cars moved. Everybody stopped, and there was a teeny bit of cars and trucks going through the 1 lane. And 4 lanes were trying to get in there at the same time. But when there was only 2 or 6 trucks on the road or cars, it was flowing perfect. 4 lanes into 1, 4 lanes into 1. But when that was like 1,000, 2,000 RPM. Now, when we got 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, there was 100 cars and trucks in each lane. And they were trying to go in front of everyone to get to this 1 lane. And this 1 lane filled up, stopped. And then when this stopped, because no more could go through, the 2 lanes that went into the 1 got stopped. And then the 3 lanes going into these 2 got stopped. And then the 4 lanes going into this 3 got stopped. And we ended up with the merge collector of traffic merge, where only 1 car and truck could go through while we were trying to get 100 in there. So on your exhaust system, just my bottom line on it is, I tell people all the time, when your exhaust system is wrong and it fills up, I'm going to draw this one little picture here to try and show a different way. Here's a nice 4-in-1 down to 1 pipe. When this fills up, and this fills up, and this fills up, and no more can come through here at this little junction or this little bottom, people say that this is good because this is the collector. This speeds up flow. Yes, it does at the correct speed, where everybody coming in here, they get to this point, one rushes in front of the other one, another one rushes, and they rush in here until it becomes a bottleneck, just like traffic. And our Harleys are 2-in-1, and we got this big V-twin, and we got 1 exhaust pipe, and we got another exhaust pipe, and the exhaust comes down the pipe. And when you're below 5,000 or 4,000 RPM, there is no restriction here, because 1 exhaust vehicle can go through, then another one, then 1 more, then another one, and then 1 more. And when you get up to about 5,000 or 6,000 RPM, this pipe size is too small. You really need bigger, for 2 lanes worth of trucks and cars that come down, exhaust trucks and cars, and you need a bigger collector so you can get more vehicles through here at once. And this RPM range goes up, but if you keep pinching these off to small pipes, you're going to backlog this until this exhaust system fills up. The exhaust system fills up, and it runs back into the engine, and it fills the engine up, and it doesn't matter how big of a S&S, Star Ward, V-Twin Power Sports, Michael Balin A1, whoever does the heads, whoever puts the big valves in, whoever ports it. If this is going to stop up the traffic of the exhaust trying to get out, it doesn't matter how good of a throttle body you have, no how good of an air cleaner you have. It doesn't matter how good of a cam you have. The traffic jam is real. And we'll talk about this another time, but I just wanted you to see that picture in your mind. Once this fills up, and it backs up all the way back to the cylinder, and this backs up all the way back to the cylinder, it doesn't matter how good your airflow is. It doesn't matter how big the valves are or how big the cam is, unless you have a turbo, nitrous, or supercharger to overfill these, and all it's trying to do is blow the pipes off. If you've been where I have and you've had exhaust pipes held on to a slip joint right here, and you have springs, we have springs hold the exhaust pipe on, and you can actually watch this pipe try to blow off and stretch these springs when the traffic builds up here. So people talk about you need, what do they call it? You got to have restriction in your exhaust. They want you to have, they want it to be, what do they call it? Somebody tell me right quick. What do you got to have They say Harley needs back pressure. Yeah. Maybe it does at 2,000, 3,000, 1,000 RPM, but the proof in the pudding with this, you guys, is the dyno sheet. Because if you've got it right at the bottom, if you've got it right, the dyno sheet will look like this on the torque, and it will look like this on the horsepower. But if you've got it wrong, this is what your dyno sheet looks like. Because the exhaust is wrong here. It needs to look like this when you got the exhaust tuned right. But if you make the exhaust perfect for this low RPM, 2,000, 3,000, whatever, where we drive, that's where it matters. It won't be the right size over here. And if you make it the right size for over here, it won't be the right size here, because the RPM range, there's called power bands. And you can make it good down low, or you can make it good up high. But I have rambled and ranted, and I've talked about it a lot, and I expect to do so some more. And I'll share some more of that with you guys another time. But I hope that didn't go too over, and it wasn't too confusing. But please send me questions, send me feedback. Sorry about the little confusion with the degree wheel again. I'll get it right directly. But I wanted you guys to know that there is the right exhaust for every engine, and there's a right exhaust for every size and for every RPM range. And if it's the greatest at 2,000 RPM, it's probably not the greatest at 6,000 RPM, because a camshaft, a cylinder head, an exhaust pipe is only good for a very narrow range. If you have a camshaft that makes the most power at 3,000 RPM, that means it's too big for 1,000 RPM, and it's too small for 5,000 RPM. They can't, that's why now in 2022 cars come with variable degree timing, where they can, the new Pan Am has 44 degrees of camshaft movement in it. It can move the cam, advance and retard, 44 degrees to make the cam timing perfect for low RPM and cam timing perfect for high RPM. But where we operate with our racing hot rod, Harleys, Chevrolets, Chryslers, and these new super cool M8s, is we have to get all that stuff narrowed in on where we want the power. God bless y'all. Thank you for watching. So sorry I got tied up, mixed up again, but it's true, it's real, and I'm live, so if I practiced and did a couple little bit of practice, maybe it would do better. But I'm telling you what I think I know. Thank you. God bless y'all. I'll see you next week. Come back for 143.